ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Wednesday, May 27th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop and open at 304-396-TALK. That is 304-396-8255. Coming up in the next few minutes, we're going to talk to head coach Corny Jackson. Thundering Herd have a lot of camps going on in the month of June. They've got the middle school camp, the high school camp. They've also got some individual camps as well. So Coach Jackson wanted to come on and talk a little bit about those. So we're going to give him the opportunity. That's coming up in the next few minutes. But until then, let's get those texts going. And again, that number one more time is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We always take your texts, no matter how random they may be. I got one earlier today. It's a thing of beauty, actually. Someone sent me a screenshot, a picture of a Pepsi bottle, and it's got the old school Marco leaning on the Block M. It's a Marshall University Thundering Herd Pepsi Cola bottle, and the texter wrote in and said, hey, this is the first one of these I've ever laid eyes on. I've seen most Herd things. I don't know if I remember this one. You remember the Mountain Dew bottles that came out after Marshall won the national championship in 1992? I used to have those. I don't know if they've got lost in a move, but I did have one of those, or at least a couple of those, and I didn't even open it. Oh, you don't open up, right? You know, you let that Mountain Dew just rot in there for the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's authentic. So that was an interesting picture. So, hey, if you've got something strange, keep it above board. I know I'm opening myself up here. You got something strange you've never seen before, that's a Herd relic or Herd artifact, you know the number. Again, that's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So we've got some TV times. Football schedule, TV times. That's the most important thing for Herd fans, right? You got to plan. You got to figure out when the games are. When are the games? Well, we don't have them all just yet. But here's what we've got. We've got the September 5th game at Penn State. That's going to be a 3:30 p.m. kick, and that's going to be on FS1, the little national television for the Thundering Herd on FS1. The game against Middle Tennessee is going to be on September 12th at 7 p.m. That's going to be on ESPN+. Marshall's game on September 19th at Missouri State, 6:30 p.m., CBS Sports Network. The game on September 26th against Gardner-Webb, 3:30 p.m. on ESPN+. And then we've got the Marshall game on Tuesday, October 20th, against South Alabama. That's going to be 7:30 p.m. on ESPN2. We don't have all the times just yet. Still waiting for that. I'm sure some of that's going to be flexed. Obviously, if Marshall's doing well, maybe some better coverage down the line. But that's what we've got so far. That JMU game, yet to be determined. That Coastal Carolina game as well in between all of that. So we're going to see, hopefully, what's coming up. The big one, I'm sure, is going to be, if you're looking at the Gardner-Webb game, that's homecoming. So the big one's going to be that. Probably there's a schedule that hasn't been released just yet. It's going to outline everything that's going to go on with homecoming. So I know a lot of Herd fans look forward to the homecoming game, Gardner-Webb, the opponent this year. And then all the other games will be flexed. It's a 12-day window, really. You look at the schedule, you go, hey, you know what? That Marshall-App State game's looking really good. We're in the 12-day window on that. Okay, let's put that here. And that's what you're going to see. I know it drives Herd fans crazy. It probably drives a lot of people crazy. You just can't plan. Other than we're taking the day. We're just taking the day. If it's a road game, is it a morning game? Like, is it an afternoon game? What do we got here? What are we doing? What's our travel plans going to look like? And so the bad thing is you really can't plan. The good thing here is that if Marshall's doing well, the television package will be a little bit more attractive down the line for the Thundering Herd. There's some other things that we're going to get into today, and we'll do that after we hear from Coach Jackson in just a few minutes. But the one thing that's still coming down right now, we're trying to figure this out, what it really is going to mean. But there's some bipartisan work going on right now with Senator Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell. Cruz, the Republican out of Texas, Cantwell, the Democrat out of Washington. Both have agreed on bipartisan legislation. They're looking to reform college sports. There might be a little bit of a narrowing of the antitrust exemption. That'll come to the NCAA. And there's going to be some transfer enforcement rules, some rules on NIL. There might be revenue sharing pooling. It's called the Protect College Sports Act. And it's looking to also limit fees. If you're an agent, you're going to have to be a part of a registry, and it's going to limit fees to 5%. And there's also some language in here, like, for example, and this only applies to 2 leagues. This act, if passed, would prevent any league that has more than $1 billion of revenue, well, we're talking about the Big Ten and the SEC, on its 2025 tax return from merging or consolidating with another conference. So the SEC, the Big Ten, couldn't just go, you know what, we're done with y'all. We're going to merge and form our own league. We're going to form our own thing here. There's going to be a little bit more policing on a cap, a spending cap. Right now it's $21.3 million. That's next year. And there are some programs right now that are kind of cooking the books, doing some creative work with NIL, and this legislation looks to kind of shoot that down. Also trying to avoid the Super League. Pooling rights, that's a big one. If leagues wanted to, and it's not mandatory, but if leagues wanted to, the leagues could pool their media rights contracts trying to generate a little bit more revenue. And there's a push here to kind of go back to the regional landscape. I don't know if that's going to ever happen. I don't think you can put that back in the bottle. I don't think that is possible because you've got the super leagues right now. Can you imagine? Could you imagine a shakeup again and you could form smaller leagues that make more sense from a geographical standpoint because revenue is not going to be that big of an issue? I think there's a lot that's still going to have to happen here. And there's going to be challenges to this, and I think you got to get a lot of lawmakers on. But you got to get a lot of the schools on board with some of this. Example, 75%, if you want to pool the revenue, pool the media rights. So basically, in a nutshell, and again, we'll know more as more comes out, but if you're a league that has $1 billion of revenue, if you distribute $1 billion in revenue, you can't expand. You can't expand. And here's something. The Lane Kiffin rule was thrown in here. Makes it illegal for coaches to leave their teams before the season concludes, and schools cannot hire coaches before a season concludes. So Lane Kiffin rule there. What if I want to fire my coach mid-season? Like, hey, look, I don't want to go through this anymore. What if I want to do that? So it's illegal now. Also, there's a provision there to introduce a medical trust for lower resource athletic departments. There's also going to be a commission to study what the pooling of rights and long-term governance of college sports looks like. And here's one you might like. And again, I'm just going to point this out right now. You get the game on the radio for free already. And we hope you continue to support us with the free radio broadcast. But this will preserve access to local communities. So you've got to have broadcasts of local teams, requiring that broadcasts of local teams are not behind a paywall, and also requires that schools maintain scholarship roster levels for Olympic sports based on a 3-year period of funding. There's going to be some protections for student athletes, if they don't believe the law is being adhered to. And this is something else, and I alluded to this. Reestablishing regional rivalries by requiring some schools to restart rivalry games if they compete in a conference without 3 or more of their top 10 most played opponents. This concept is only triggered if rights are pooled. That means you've got to pool the rights together, the media rights. There's some things in here that we're going to have to jump through the hoops, and I'm curious. Top 10 all time, right? Top 10. How many games has Marshall played against X amount of teams here to kind of trigger that? Are we going back to the MAC with a lot of these games? And what this looks like in the short term might not look like what it is now. But if you're looking through the series of who you've played, who have you played? Obviously, you're looking at a lot of schools in the MAC. Like Kent State, you've played Kent State. You've won 19, lost 18. Okay. Morehead State, you're 33-10-3. I'm just glancing quickly at some of the numbers here, and I'm I think this is I don't know if this has been updated yet on the record book, but if you're looking at the all-time series between schools here, and you're trying to find, like Toledo, you've won 18, you've lost 22, you tied one time. So would you see Toledo come back on the schedule? If you're looking at some of the records here, Miami, 14 wins, 30 losses, a tie. Morris Hart, okay, yeah. I'm skimming. Ohio, obviously. You got to get them back in the schedule if you're not. 21, 34, and 5 there. So there's some interesting things coming out on this. I just don't know how much of this is going to survive. Is this really going to go through without challenges? When would this go into effect? Could we see the Sun Belt already has sort of this regional thing going on? Would you have to split the Sun Belt in two? What would you have to do? What will ultimately this look like when it comes to the landscape? And how much of this would you agree with? How much of this would you go, yeah, that's crazy. You can't make that happen. And so this is where we're at right now in Congress. This is what the Senate's working on, or at least Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell. There are a couple other people that are on board with this as well. But I'd like to see us go back to a more regional landscape. I enjoyed that. Marshall in a regional conference right now is close to what you can get. I would like to see Marshall maybe. I don't know. Does this mean Marshall and would the MAC have to blend a little bit? Is the MAC too big right now? I mean, do we limit sizes of conferences? I mean, hey, you can only have 9. What are we doing here? 304-396-TALK is the text line. 304-396-8255. So it's a lot to throw at you. And hopefully this will sort of clarify itself as we get more information and lawmakers start looking at this and maybe doing the rounds on this. Would you be okay with a smaller conference, a little bit more regional, compact conference? Would you be okay? Obviously, I'm sure everyone would be happy with playing Ohio, right? Hey, get a regional opponent. You got to play Ohio. Have to. You can't not play that game. And already I think you can't not play that game. But would there be some other schools on there that, just by volume alone, you go, hey, well, yeah, they're really not our rival. We just played them because we're in the same conference with them. Marshall's hopped conferences for a long time here, so you really can't, just off the surface go, I don't know if Toledo's really our rival. We've had a history with them, but is Toledo our rival? I mean, I think Furman's probably a bigger rival than Toledo. Maybe. I would think. Some of those Southern Conference teams, obviously. Of course, the Thundering Herd playing a couple of those Southern Conference teams now in the Sun Belt, so it's worked itself out. We will hear from Marshall head coach Cornelius Jackson when we continue, and your text on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We continue on with this Wednesday edition of The Drive. With the summer months upon us, we've got camps coming up, and Marshall University has several for youngsters. It's always fun to talk to the head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd, Cornelius Jackson, and camp season is starting June 4th, going all the way to June 20th, and there is a age group for everyone, and Coach, you remember your first camp? I know this is an important experience for a lot of youth.
I do. Camp season is the best season. When I was growing up, I went to a few camps. I went to my first camp was at West Virginia Tech in Montgomery. And my second camp, basketball camp after that, I was in 8th grade, I believe. Headed to the 9th grade, I went to the UNC basketball camp down with Coach Dean Smith. So camp season is always an awesome time for the youngsters. Like you said, Paul, we have 4 camps. We have our middle school camp coming up, teen camp on June 4th, and then we have our high school teen camps June 5th and 6th, and then the Little Herd basketball camp and our Herd basketball camp. So we have something for all ages. It's a great opportunity to join our coaching staff and our players. This is designed, again, all ages, all skill levels. We don't just roll the balls out. My staff and my players, they do a great job of actually instructing while also having fun with the youngsters.
For those that have gone through it years past, anything different, anything new you want to try, or basically you come to your camp, be prepared to work, and have fun?
Yeah, those we put a focus on those things. Come and learn, have fun, and another thing that we emphasize, Paul, too, is being grateful and thanking your parents. We remind the young kids to thank their parents, every day for taking time out of their day, whether it be bringing them to camp or financially paying for them to come to camp. We make sure that our campers leave with a grateful heart, and I'm very appreciative of the folks who brought them to camp or provided an opportunity for them to come and learn and grow during camp season.
Well, let's talk about some of these dates. We start June 4th with the middle school team camp. Now, that is $250 for a team. What will that experience be like for those middle schoolers? What do parents need to know?
Well, they'll come in and they'll get games on the main court. A lot of them will. But again, it's high level competition. You play against some teams that you don't necessarily play against during the season. So it's an opportunity for those guys to come in and grow and get better. But one of the main things that's always exciting, or was exciting for me as a young kid, is to play. Play in front of college coaches at a young age, and then play on the main basketball court. You kind of envision yourself, playing for the Herd one day, and what opportunity you have to go in and play in the Cam Henderson Center on the college floor, on the same floor that some of the guys that you look up to, that's on our current team now, plays on and practice on a daily basis.
Get to see the locker room as well, and that's always a big deal for these kids. Get to see the locker room the Herd dresses in.
Yeah, it's an experience. I love it because one, it gives the young kids an opportunity to dream. I know I was a dreamer just speaking of myself, I was a dreamer coming up, and whether it was going to Oak Hill High School, whether it's coming to Marshall, I always dreamt of being in their shoes. So whenever you get to see the locker of Wyatt Fricks, or I'm just speaking recently of the guys that were here, the Obinas, the John Elmores, the Tavion Kinseys, and so on, and the pictures from the past. It's always a good thing and a good tool to help these young kids dream and know that if they put in the work, if they make good decisions, obviously if they make good grades, we emphasize that as well, they'll have the opportunity to do the same things.
Things get a little more intense probably with the high school team camp that's coming up June 5th through the 6th, and that's $450 a team. I'm assuming that's a little bit more the same with the middle school team camp, but probably the intensity is ramped up a little bit when you get to those high school level kids.
Yeah, it is. You know what? Because they're just a couple, years older and stronger, and the opportunity is closer for them. A few years ago, we actually signed a young man, Ryan Nutter. He played in our team camp. His team came down from Ohio, and he actually signed with us. So it's an opportunity to be seen. Again, all of my coaching staff will be there. We won't just be in the office or hiding in the hallways. We're at every court, paying close attention to the young men that's competing in the team camp.
We follow that up.
It's a big opportunity, Paul. I'm sorry, it's a big opportunity to get recruited and get seen. A lot of guys, you may not get out to see them as much during the year because of your season. But what a heck of opportunity, especially for the local guys, to be seen by our staff here at Marshall.
And we follow that up with the herd camp. That's coming up June 22nd to 25th. Now that's $185 for campers. And what's different about the herd camp than the team camps?
It's more individual instruction. The team camp is more of games. The herd camp and the little herd camp is instruction, basically teaching fundamentals. The other two camps, the middle school camp and the herd camp, they're coming with their coaches. So we don't have an opportunity to coach them, right? So we more so observe them. But the herd camp and the little herd camp is more of an instruction from our players, from our staff. So it's one-on-one. We take the time out, do different drills, put them in different stations. They get to watch highlights of this year's NBA finals. They get to watch highlights of our players this past season. So it's a great opportunity for young kids to come and kind of learn the fundamentals of the game from college guys and the college basketball Division I staff.
I'm pretty sure, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to assume that the Little Herd Camp might be your favorite camp. It's June 29th through July 1st. That's $135 for parents that want to put their kid through this. You get to see the faces and just the excitement on these youngsters.
Oh, man, it's awesome. You know what? They come in full of energy every day, ready to work, ready to compete, and they do it with smiles on their faces. They're so impressionable, so they'll do whatever you tell them. It's great. They have fun, and that's the main thing, right? Especially at that age, you want to teach, but also you want those young folks to have fun, and send them off with something they can continue to go home and have fun with, while also getting better at the game of basketball.
Marshall basketball coach Corny Jackson joining us. The basketball camps are coming up starting on June 4th, going all the way to July 1st. I don't want to leave this one out. You've got the elite camp coming up on June 20th, and that's $100. And I'm sure that's a little different than the herd camp and the little herd camp. The title says it all. It's an elite experience for these campers.
It is. You know what? It's last year we had one, Paul, to be honest with you, and it went so well. We had people asking, are we going to have the second one? So we added a second date. But it's handpicked guys from all over. We had players from Tennessee, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina. We had two young men from Georgia. So we had guys from all over came in last year for our league camp, and it's an opportunity to be seen, to be recruited. We actually are currently recruiting several guys who came in to our league camp last year, and it's a great opportunity for the young men again to be recruited. You know, anytime you can put yourself in position to be recruited, especially as a high school student athlete now, is really important. You know, with the transfer portal and everything that's going on in college athletics. So anytime you can come and put yourself in front of coaches, I would strongly advise that.
Now, if anyone wants to sign up for this, where do they need to go, and how easy is it to sign up?
It's pretty easy. You know, you can contact Coach Isaiah Carson. I believe he has a barcode for that as well, but contact him, and he'll get you signed up for it. And again, it's come ready to work. You know, it's not a lot of standing around. Again, it's high level stuff. We put, you know, the elite campers. It's basically a martial practice. We put them through everything that we go through, everything that our student athletes go through. It's a martial practice, and then we play a little bit. So, what a big opportunity to put your skill set on display again in front of a D1 staff in the changing climate of Division I athletics.
And to brag on Coach, you know, coming for, you know, media availabilities, practice still going on. Nobody's standing around when we come into the Henderson Center. Coaches, you're getting your money work. Nobody's standing around. And if they're standing around, they're not playing.
Hey, the work is the work, Paul. You know what? You know, we've been fortunate to have some great student athletes who aren't afraid of the work. We get after it. You know, we push our student athletes to the limits. Because it's hard, you know, winning is hard, and obviously whenever you add a good bunch of young student athletes who are full of energy, have the right attitude, and not afraid to work, you know, success a lot of times follows.
Our guest is Marshall men's basketball coach Cornelius Jackson. The camps are coming up June 4th all the way to July 1st. There is a camp for every age group, and we'll post links to that as well to help people find the information. You mentioned camps help recruiting. Recruiting, of course, not only at this level, which is important. I want to stress this. It's important you get seen now, because you're not just recruiting from the transfer portal. You're recruiting high schoolers. You're looking ahead, seeing who might have potential to be a part of the herd. So you're recruiting at all times, but transfer portal looks pretty successful. I'm looking at several sites, and it looks like you got a great team potential here. Yeah, obviously you probably have a little bit more of an evaluation than what some of the news media are saying about your team. So what do you think about, you know, where you're at so far? Did you successfully address all your needs? You know, you get a little want, or, you know, did you find somebody there that's maybe a diamond in the rough? You know, how would you evaluate your class?
Well, first of all, to go back what you said, you know, talking about recruiting high school, you know, we still recruit high school players. Again, it's so important to be seen and be seen early. And there's not a lot of opportunity to be seen. You know, we have a couple of dates so you can go out and you can be seen with your high school team or, you know, AAU, but, you know, that's a crapshoot. You may play a lot, you may not, depending on which team and what tournament you're at. So to be able to come and to you and be seen, again, we signed Ryan Nutter out of our team camp. So it's a great opportunity for high school students. The transfer portal, you know, it's ever changing. You know, I feel good about the young men that we've added. One, I think they're the right type of people. You know, we put an emphasis on character here at Marshall, and we went out and staff done a great job and found some character guys. You know, some guys that played at the higher level, some guys that played at junior college, some guys that played Division II. So we have a wide range of guys that we brought in. We kept a few guys from our current roster who know the culture, knows what it takes, has been in the martial practice, but we're bringing in several guys that hadn't. But with the same time, you know, we feel good about the guys that we brought in and the potential that they have.
Joining us on the program, Cornelius Jackson, head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd. Camps are coming up. Also, the transfer portal nonstop, it feels like. So, can you talk about some of the guys that you're bringing in that you're really excited about, and maybe highlight some of them?
I'm really excited about all of them, to be honest with you, Paul. I thought, Matt Van Coleman was big for us this year. The games he played, just his shot blocking ability and his height. I thought we brought in Kaman Maker, who's also 7'1", who played at the higher level, redshirted at St. John's, and played at DePaul last year, and he's 7'2". He can move and block shots. He's a big-time lob threat, so we wanted to obviously address that because we saw how important Matt was to our team. Again, we've added some guys with big numbers. Bo averaged 20 and 13 or 17 down at Concord. Alex came from junior college. So I'm excited about all of our guys, man, and the potential. They come in. We actually come in and get started June 8th. That's our first summer workout, and we're super excited to kind of mold this team and build it. Anytime you're adding so many new guys, I want to say my first year we added 9 new guys. Last year was 8, and this year it will be 12. We still have 2 slots that we could fill, so it'll be 12 new guys. So anytime you add that many new, it's like putting a puzzle together. You recruit the guys, you get them here, you go through workouts, and now you have to see where they fit. Where they can help the team, and what aspects they can help the team. So it's always an exciting time to do that.
Marshall basketball coach Cornelius Jackson joining us, and camps are coming up. Again, I want to emphasize that June 4th through July 1st, opportunity for you to be seen, to work on your skills, work on your character, go out, have a great time. And possibly one day you could be a part of the Thundering Herd, because you never know, and it has happened before. As Coach Jackson, it never stops for you, nonstop. I don't know if you get a day off. I don't think so.
Paul, I've been doing this a long time, man. I believe I just finished my 26th season. The last few years are probably the busiest years since I've been coaching. Again, the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, and we're adjusting to it and adapting to it in real time, and it's busy, but it's fun, and that's why you have to love what you do. And I've always, again, I finished 26 seasons. I've always loved what I do, and it doesn't feel like work, but it sure is. It's busy. It's a busy time. It used to be May was a little downtime for college coaches, at least for when I first started. But now it's one of the busiest times, with the transfer portal going on.
You remember a time when the NCAA tournament wasn't going to be 76 teams here soon? You remember those good old days?
You know what? I talked about that. We'll see. We'll see how it play out. Hopefully it gives the mid majors more opportunities to make the NCAA tournament. So we'll see how it play out. If it does that, obviously it's good for us. If it just brings the bottom half of the higher level teams, then maybe not. But anytime you have an opportunity, that's all you can ask for. I try not to focus on, who makes the rules and what they say. I try to just focus on getting our team to compete at a high level, win as many games as we can, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Our guest is head coach Cornelius Jackson. Thundering Herd continuing to get better, and also with the camps coming up, opportunity for the kids to get better as well. Again, we'll post some information as well so we can get people to where they need to go to sign up for these camps. Coach, always good to talk to you. We'll do it again soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there working and getting ready for basketball season.
Likewise, Paul. Appreciate you guys having me on to promote our camp and our roster. Anytime, we have a chance to promote Marshall and Marshall basketball, it's always a great day, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Appreciate it, Coach. We've got more coming up. Text lines open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue on with this Wednesday edition of Your Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line is now open. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. One of the things that came out today, the Cincinnati Bengals announcing a few more nominees for the upcoming Ring of Honor. Also changing the process, starting with the 2027 calendar year. Only one person makes it in a year. They're trying to limit how many people get in. And I understand it. I completely get it. But there's such a backlog now because you've never done this. So you had multiple nominees get in the first few years, and now you're cutting it down. You're going to have like two, and one's got to be from the original nominee list. And right now, the names that are still on the original nominee list, Jim Breach is there, James Brooks is there, Chris Collinsworth, David Fulcher, Max Montoya, Bob Trumpy, Reggie Williams, and you're adding to the nominee list Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap, Andrew Whitworth, Leon Hall, A.J. Green. How do you pick? I don't mind them trying to make this a special honor. I don't mind that at all, but I don't think you should, right now, at this point, limit some of these names because some of these guys should be in already. Bob Trumpy should have gotten in before he passed away, and that's one of the things that I don't understand the process for. There are a lot of guys that, when you get to this point, if they're worthy of getting in, get them in. Get them in because Bob Trumpy will never know the joy of being inducted in the Ring of Honor, him passing away. I mean, that's a tragedy for me. I mean, it's not a tragedy on the grand scale, but just to think, Bob Trumpy belongs in the Bengals Ring of Honor. He's not there yet, and if he gets in, we'll have to do it with his family because he's not here anymore. And if there are people who are worthy of something like this, get them in. Before we get Geno Atkins in and Andrew Whitworth in and a guy like Carlos Dunlap in, I mean, why are we not getting Chris Collinsworth in or Max Montoya in or Reggie Williams in or Jim Breach? Why are these guys? Or Fulcher the Vulture. Why are we not getting these guys? I mean, these are worthy names. And so you're limiting who gets in, and then you're limiting it even further. Is it less special because you got some of these original guys in first and then? Because it would be a shame that only one guy gets in from the current nominees list, and then one of the other guys that probably could have got in has to wait because, okay, you're taking one from the current list or all of them, and it could be, hey, Andrew Whitworth and maybe Max Montoya. Could have been Bob Trumpy. You don't know how this works, but I wish the voters would have gotten Trumpy in sooner just because he meant so much to the organization as a football player and beyond. And I don't have problems with, let's get some guys in while they're still here. Let's honor them, not honor their memory, honor them completely. the way I would go about it. Making sure that the people who are here now that you can honor, you honor. Let's not wait. Why are we waiting here? I mean, there's no reward for waiting. And it's not a bad thing if some of the younger guys have to wait a little bit longer. Let's get the guys that deserve to be in now. And then we'll get to the guys that deserve to be in that are younger. Now, of course, I know the whole argument is you never know. I get that. You never know. But I know one thing. We'll see Geno Atkins a lot longer than we might see some of the other guys on this list. Case in point, Bob Trumpy. I was a big fan of Trumpy back in the day. So I'd like to see this process changed. I don't know if this is the right direction for that. And I still want to see a Ring of Honor for Marshall football. Not the Hall of Fame, because the Hall of Fame's for all student athletes, and that process has changed a little bit. I want to see a Ring of Honor for Marshall football. It's just football. And that way, and I would make it exclusive as well. I'd make it a pretty big deal to be in that Ring of Honor. Not just everybody gets in, but you got to have a resume that really warrants it for you to be on the Ring of Honor. And with the Bengals, though, they're playing a lot of catch up, and I hope that we could see that happen for the Thundering Herd as well. Just Ring of Honor there. And, of course, I know who your go-tos are going to be. Oh, yeah, we got to get Chad in. We got to get Randy in. We got to get Byron in. Hey, let's look at who's around that might not be here by the time we get to them first, and let's make an effort. Let's look at this process and go, okay, who are we going to eventually honor? Let's get them honored first. And let them know that, hey, they're still remembered, they're thought of, and they're able to enjoy their moment. Quick timeout. We wrap it up. This is The Drive.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 10:06 on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And that's going to do it for us. I want to thank our guest today, Marshall men's basketball coach Cornelius Jackson, for joining us. I'll be back with you tomorrow. We'll do it all over again right here, ESPN 94.1 AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.